So today is, again, it's a new offering or new attempt for us with this forum where we want this to be interactive. Please ask questions, please stop us, or I shouldn't say stop us, but please, please feel free to reach out to us during the presentation. We will have questions as we go along that, again, I would like anyone that has answers, feel free to join in. And then we will open it up for general questions at the end. Today, but today is not too much of a, we're not trying to really sell anything. We're not really trying to pitch anything. We would like this to be interactive. We do want to hear back from you. We want to hear what you're doing today. There's a number of different challenges that we're seeing in the markets today, a lot of changes in the landscape of what our clients are doing. A big part of that is marketing and biz dev are beginning to be much more involved in trying to sell services for our clients. We work with a lot of professional services firms, but also a lot of law firms. Law firms traditionally haven't had a big BD and marketing effort in really the sales process. They're not typically tracking opportunities, et cetera, from lead generation through to the actual sale. Most of our BD and marketing teams are kind of have to work almost against the partnership a bit, right? We're trying to work a little rogue, a little in exile. We're trying to add value to the firm, grow the business, drive revenue, often without the partner's involvement or a potentially minimum amount of their involvement. And so there's a number of interesting tools that we've seen on the market that work towards this goal for BD and marketing to manage events, for them to manage email campaigns. Probably some of my favorite stuff is on some new data sources is on relationship scraping. So we're seeing new data sources for ERM, as we call it, enterprise relationship management. IntroHive is probably one of the more popular ones we see in the market, but certainly the old ContactNet from Elite. Intap has Intap relationships. They had acquired Wabbit. We also see some newer players in the market with ClientSense and Nexel. So there's a lot of different options out there in the market for that ERM space. We see adding a lot of value to our potential data estate, to what we're able to do analysis on, what we're able to try and find insights on. So a lot of new data sources available, but how do we then begin to be able to leverage this as a competitive edge? And also, who owns my data? A lot of the new vendors in the market are cloud-based vendors. Even the traditional on-prem big guys like Elite, Thomson Reuters Elite, they're moving to a only cloud solution for Elite 3E, which is the big financial solution in the market. I know Aderant, which is really the next top one out there, certainly in legal for larger firms, is moving to a cloud solution. Intap has really been moving our clients to the cloud for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. It's been a pretty solid drum they've been drumming for moving their clients to the cloud. For the firms themselves, it's now a question of, who owns my data? Where is it? It's kind of beginning to get locked up behind all of these APIs, locked up behind all the vendors' cloud-based solutions. And a lot of the traditional things we used to be able to do with data are now suddenly becoming harder. So what's out there in the market today to help with some of these challenges? Number one, I'd say that data science and machine learning is becoming pervasive. This is something we're seeing a lot of our clients looking to invest in. It's tools and technologies that really came from the big data cloud vendors, a Google, a Facebook, et cetera. And those tools are now widely available for everyone. How did they do this? It's really about the cloud. So just as many of the data sources are now cloud sourced and cloud only for data sources, a lot of the data platforms are cloud only. And so the big ones out there, Google has Google Cloud, AWS is out there as well. And then Microsoft has their Azure stack. I will say that when it comes to data platforms, really all of our clients are Microsoft shops. Microsoft is really the pervasive vendor for direct cloud, your own kind of private tenant where it's your slice of the cloud. Microsoft is by far the leader and is really positioned to do well in that space and is also one of our partners. So we're a Microsoft partner as well. But a lot of this is, we'd like to hear, what are you doing? So, this isn't just about what can or cannot be done by Wilson. This is, what our firm's doing. Some of our clients are using Domo. Most of our clients are using Power BI for the reporting. But it is going to be interesting to see, who wins in some of these spaces. But I would certainly talk a bit about Microsoft. So Azure is the Microsoft cloud platform. If you're not familiar with it, most of you are probably currently moving to the Microsoft 365 cloud platform in one way or another. For Exchange is the big piece. We moved to Exchange Online is what my clients are doing. SharePoint Online shows up with that. Office Online shows up with that. So there's a whole suite of Microsoft 365 solutions that are really, our clients are moving to the cloud. With that, there's companion technology for Azure. And Azure is really the technical infrastructure, right? Instead of having a network, you now have your Azure tenant. Instead of buying servers, you provision Azure resources. And this is what we see, I'd say, really all of our clients doing. We talk about sometimes the concept of a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud world. When we really talk about that, it's the fact that Intapp potentially could be running on AWS, and Thomson Reuters could be running on Google, but our clients are going to be running on Azure. That's what we see our clients doing, but be interested to see if anyone has any different opinions on that. But with this cloud-based offering, Microsoft has the next generation of technology called Azure Synapse. If you're not familiar with Synapse or you haven't heard about it, it's a single solution stack in the cloud that offers all of the classic SQL-based analysis that we used to do on-prem, but it also offers big data tools. So you may see the word Spark in there. Spark is that big data tool. It's an in-memory, multi-cluster, multi-node cluster solution where it really has infinite scale, where we can scale it across as large of a data set as you want. And the important thing to understand for anyone that was a financial analyst or focusing financial numbers is it's the same tools and technologies we would use for financial crunching. We can now use for business development, for marketing, for unstructured data like documents, like Word, like PDFs, potentially alumni information, or your website where you're potentially tracking experience information, unstructured data like that. We can apply the same tools and technologies with Azure Synapse that we run on financials. We can run on all of these disparate data sources as well. And so that's the big change that happens with Azure, or really any of these cloud vendors, is that we now have data science and AI available within it. And from that, we can then begin to build out some interesting things. We're going to talk about client segmentation today, but we'll talk about other things in the future. So certainly if you're building other models or other pieces of analysis, love to hear about them, but do be aware, we'll have a series of these. Client segmentation is what we're talking about today. So any questions, again, if anyone has any answers, I'd love to hear what people are doing. Is anyone using any type of data lake today? So that within that Azure stack, there's a data lake. If you're not familiar with a data lake, don't worry about it, but it is the storage for all of that data, whether it's financial and structured data, whether it's semi-structured, like potentially JSON, or unstructured, like your DMS or potentially experience information. If you've been tracking that in Word, we can land all of that data in one place, or I should say, unlike a lot of the other cloud technologies I'm talking about, this is really about what you can be doing, right? So you would own the data, you would own the tenant. This would be your lake, right? We're talking about the technologies available today that you could be using. This is not a pitch. This is just what our clients are doing, what we see the market doing. So just be aware that this is very much something that is your kind of private cloud, right? With Azure Tenant, with the Azure Data Lake. And the big thing that lake technology can give you is the ability for what I call data science enablement, right? That now, instead of simply having SQL and simply having financial analysts and business analysts and your classic analysis being done by the finance function. Now the same stack, we can open that wide open to data scientists, to machine learning models, and really, as you heard, we can apply that to all the disparate data sources at your firm. So that's the big change that I see happening, is that this new lake technology, new big data technology is widely pervasive, easy to turn on with Azure, at least in the cloud. And it's something we can use for everything at the firm. And again, when I say we, I mean you. So talking a little bit about Azure, this is just a diagram of all the different pieces. And again, this isn't even all the pieces, but some of the pieces are being used. So there's Azure Synapse Analytics, which is that big data tool. There's Azure SQL Serverless, which allows us to build, access the data. Now all your business analysts or data analysts, maybe be a better term, anyone that can connect to your current financial systems in SQL, your current marketing on-prem systems in SQL, those same skills can be applied in Azure on top of that lake technology using Azure Synapse SQL. So all of the data that is available in Synapse, your current skill set works for. Again, I'm interested to see what people are doing with data science today. We have some of our data scientists on the phone today if there are questions for them. But that's some of the really fun stuff, is on top of this lake tier, you can begin to build out machine learning models. Microsoft offers a whole bunch of options in this space. Again, there are other vendors out there which offer similar parity. Just literally none of my clients are using it, so it's hard for me to talk about it in the sense that no one's really looking to migrate from SQL Server on-prem to Google big data, Redshift or something. So they're really looking to kind of continue their Microsoft relationship in that evolution. But we have Azure Machine Learning. We have that big data tool, Spark, that's running inside Synapse Analytics. And all of that kind of machine learning and data science technology is, again, something you can really put on top of all of your data sources. So one of the things that's sort of implied here, because there is work to do, is that by moving to that technology stack, that data science enablement stack, is that all of your data can be joined up together. You can put all that data into one central place for your data estate, and all of the same tools and technologies can be used on top of it. You heard me mention that, to me, it's about data science enablement. Although there's a whole lot of things you could do with straight SQL, running on top of a massive joined up data estate where everything's running together and synchronized. To me, the big value add are these machine learning models and the data science work that can be done, where we're really able to find new insights on top of data that you could not find before, right? Humans, certainly a lot of us, and we'll talk about this in client segmentation, we have assumptions of how things work. We build models on how we think it works, and we run on top of them, and it's probably pretty good. But with the machine learning, we can actually let the machine find the patterns in the data that we weren't able to glean on our own. We're able to build predictive models and score them. It's not just saying, well, we think that this is an at-risk client because reasons. It's that we can actually score that to find out that client is at risk. We can actually score our own models. So again, if you're not familiar with machine learning, some of the different, you'll hear us use the term data science and big data and machine learning a little interchangeably in some of our discussions. Just as a concept, data science is really the human being, right? It's like a business analyst. They're going to build out, they're going to do some type of analysis. They're going to find out some insights in the data. They're going to look at data with a new set of tools and technologies that your business analyst never had. They're very advanced computational and statistical models available to them, a lot of math that can go into them. And that's what the data scientist is going to do. They're going to go find insights in your data. They're going to answer potentially business problems for the first time that have not been asked. And the data scientist is really going to wear many hats. They're going to do data engineering, data preparation, as well as the data science itself. When we operationalize those things, when we take the work the data scientist has done and we want to turn it on so it runs automatically, so that it runs for everyone in the firm. The product the data scientist creates is called a machine learning model. So we have machine learning models that are created by the data scientist as a part of their effort, but to turn that on and operationalize it, that's when we get into what we call machine learning engineering. And it's a whole other discipline, right? It's a much more IT focused pipeline. It's a very technical set of steps. It's about managing code, managing data, point in time. It's a pretty advanced set of pieces, but it's not just the pure data science, right? To me, a data scientist or the pure data science work is not unlike a business analyst who's going into Excel and curating data and finding out patterns and answering an ad hoc question. That business analyst, to me, that's the data scientist as well. They're really going in and doing something trailblazing for the first time. When they actually get into building and operationalizing that model, that gets into my opinion, more machine learning engineering. Questions. Talked about what we can do with data science. Again, today we're going to talk about client segmentation. Is anybody doing any type of client segmentation today? That's something I'm kind of interested in. If anybody out there in the finance function, or potentially and marketing as well, could potentially be using this, there are existing client segmentation solutions out there today. Wilson Allen, we've done something that exists already. It's really a mirror, though, of what Redwood had done. We have a number of former Redwood employees. Redwood Analytics had a business development module that has been in the market for a while. It's really purely on the financials, but this is the kind of thing a business analyst / data engineer could put together in the past, where we're looking at financial calculations. We have our own derived financial statistics. What is our year-to-date revenue? What is my year-to-date revenue last year? What is my year-over-year growth? What is my revenue over 24 months? And then looking at all of the joiners and levers across all of those different segments of data. And from that, we derived a number of different categories: new and renewed, thriving, growing, at risk, lost. We're able to categorize and segment our data on a lot of different financials, on a number of financial statistics in a very not a black box way, right? We could explain it. You could explain the math for this. So that's the kind of thing that we've certainly done in the past with prior to data science skills. Talking about what we're doing now with other data sources, I'm going to talk a little bit today about the RFM model. This is something you can do today. You can do it purely on a single source like financials. But one of the things I like about it is that it's really something that's been used more by marketers. And that's one of the things I like about it. The other piece about the RFM model that for our first session together, I want to talk about is this is a standard model. It's not a black box. There's Wikipedia articles about it. Investopia has an article about it. This is standard math with nothing's a black box, and it's something everyone can do. I'm going to show some examples of what we did on the financials and then how we can expand it out. It's really based on three calculations: the recency, the frequency, and the monetary. So, what was the last time we had a transaction or a touch with this client? What are the numbers of touches or transactions we have with that client in a particular window of time? And then what is the monetary value, potentially the life-to-date value of that client to the firm? And looking at those three statistics, we're able to build out this RFM segmentation. These set of segments were built out by, sorry, it's covered over in my presentation. I think it was Blast Marketing, but really you can categorize them any way you want. So the first thing we do in our models is build out the RFM features, where we build out the recency data set, the frequency data set, the monetary data set, and the real value add is in the determining cutting points when we start binning the information, grouping them into categories. That's more the art of data science, where we're kind of looking at grouping the data in different ways. Where do we slice it and segment it? And that then defines the RFM score. So if you are interested in RFM, we have a notebook. A notebook is a sort of data scientist development environment, work product. And And within that, we have a notebook we're happy to share using just a single source. So that's something where, we kind of want people to get some value out of this, some operational value out of these sessions. So that is something we're happy to share if you have interested in. So we have a kind of little mini data science starter kit on top of RFM that runs on a single source. And it's not doing any data science yet, right? So the RFM analysis, the straight calculation, as I call it, is simply a mathematical aggregation of RFM scores. And based on that set of RFM scores, we then have our segments. So this is a visualization of what this data looks like in a histogram format. We can see recency, we can see the distribution of frequency, and finally, we can see the distribution of monetary. So again, we have a model, happy to share it, a straight calculation on a single data source that is building out our RFM modeling. We can do it purely on the modeling obviously involves monetary statistics, it involves financial statistics. So obviously financials are a critical component to RFM modeling, but something else that we can do for our marketers in the room and marketing in general, this is why it's popular, is we can swap out what we derive our frequencies from. So instead of doing financial transactions, we could do it on top of a highly curated set of CRM events. So if you're curating your CRM information nice and tightly by client, we can use your CRM as the source. And I should say you can use the CRM as your source for these events. Again, this isn't about just what we are doing, but this is what you can be doing without us. So you can use your CRM events for frequency for your activities. If you have a solution like an intro hive, you can use your intro hive scraped activities. Fantastic data, the intro hive data. And again, in relationships, I'm not trying to pick a vendor. It's more that scraped data is fantastic data. I'm a big fan of it. It enriches all of my analysis, no matter who the vendor is potentially that you're sourcing it from. So if you don't have an ERM solution, I'd highly recommend potentially looking at that or putting some budget in for next year in your marketing budget to look at ERM. Again, there's a number of vendors in the space. And I think, but more importantly, the data is some fantastic data. And then most of my marketers are tracking campaigns somewhere. You're tracking it somewhere, whether it's Future or HubSpot or Concept from Latera, click dimensions and dynamics. There's a number of different things you could do. Constant contact, even simple things. Track that we can build our frequencies on top of that. So that is something else that one of the advantages of the RFM model for everyone on the call today is that it can be based on obviously your monetary from financials, but the frequency can be based on a number of marketing owned data sources foundationally. So I just want to ask, is anyone doing any RFM analysis? Again, it's not a black box, so I see it as being a popular one in the world, if not potentially in legal yet, but it is certainly something that marketers, I see more and more marketers being familiar with. And if you are doing anything, do you use any additional data sources besides financials for your client segmentations? I think that's the other question I'd be interested to know. If you're doing client segmentation, like in the old Revoop way, are you doing client segmentation on other sources today? The other pieces with RFM to extend this further, one is we're talking about extending it across disparate data sources, but now we can also begin to extend it into that data scientist and machine learning space. Instead of simply doing a straight calculation, as I call it, the straight calculation method, we can now apply machine learning. Our data scientists are familiar with a number of disparate tools, techniques where we can run models on top of our data. Client clustering is a very popular one. K-means is probably the most popular client clustering algorithm out there. Again, as far from a data scientist perspective, it's actually very straightforward and it's something we can explain pretty easily. But it is something we can apply on top of RFM. So we have an RFM model that has client clustering. You could implement client clustering on top of either the RFM model or even potentially that Revoop model, where we can add data science and machine learning to our existing models. Dimension reduction. So this is the concept where if I have 10 different dimensions, And if you're not familiar with the term dimension, conceptually it'd be an office, department, a section, practice group, could be a campaign for marketing. And whatever it is that we're grouping our data by, we can reduce these large number of dimensions into a single dimension, which is in a couple different techniques. PCA is a popular one. I love it. TSNE is a newer one that is very popular. And within this model that we're looking at here now, we've actually applied the TSNE dimensional reduction and then applied k-means on top of it. So it is something where you can extend your current analysis, your current segmentation on potentially a single source across many sources, and you can then apply machine learning on top of it. In this example, these clusters of clients are really plotted across what we would almost consider space, where we're able to look at our clusters and how they're grouped in space relative to each other for RFM, as well as this new dimensionally reduced cluster. And eventually we come out with some nice segments for reporting. Who are our champions? Who are promising? Who are the clients we can't lose? Who's loyal? Who needs attention? Who require activation? And even if you did that, if you're interested in that standalone notebook on a single source with straight calculation, we can come up, or I should say you can generate this output on that notebook.